Morning everyone, welcome to week 2 of Specialist Maths. So today we're going to be looking at how we find the turning points of polynomial functions. So last term we found the turning points of quadratics. This is going to be a very similar process, just a little bit more complex. So before we start, just check in. So either let me know via discussion board, email, or just writing in your notes how you are going. And it's worthwhile making sure that you're going okay with the online learning. It's a very different situation. Just let me know if you're having any difficulties. Okay, so to get started, I'd like you to copy and complete this table here. So we're looking at the degree of each of these polynomials and how many terms there are in each. So that shouldn't take you very long. Okay, so moving on. What we're going to be doing here is the steps for finding the turning points of a polynomial is a relatively in-depth process. So with quadratics, when we wanted to find the turning point, we found what the derivative was when it was find out where the derivative equals 0. So remember, the derivative is the slope. So if the slope is 0, by definition, that has to be a turning point. Okay. So with polynomials, when you derive, you still end up with a quadratic. Okay, so when you derive a quadratic, you get a straight line. When you derive a polynomial, you end up with a quadratic, assuming that it's a third degree. So here we have 3 times 1 is 3, 3 minus 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 minus 1 is 1, 1 times 4 is 4, 1 minus 1 is 0, and then we kill the constant. So this here is the formula for the slope of this line. Okay? So what we do is to find the turning point, we find when the derivative equals 0. So we have to find out when this y dash equals 0. So to do that, we need to use a quadratic formula. And you know how to use a quadratic formula, and we end up with x equals 2/3 and x equals -2. So these 2 points here, x equals 2/3 and x equals -2, the slope is 0. So it's worth noting that this only works if a and c are opposite. So if a and c are opposite, then this under the square root will be positive. So if a and c are the same, most likely that this is going to end up to be negative, and it's not going to work out. I will not give you any examples or questions where you can't do it by this method. That's just worthwhile keeping track. Okay, so step 2, we have the x coordinates of the turning points, -2 and 2/3. So now we have to substitute these back into our original formula. Okay, so -2 cubed plus -2 squared times 2. So we're just substituting this in to work out to be 11. So our first turning point is -2, x is -2, y is 11. Our second turning point is x is 2/3. That shouldn't be a negative, that's fine. And y equals 1.519. So that's a typo there, that negative. Don't worry about that. So we have our 2 turning points. Just substituting back in. Step 3, we need to figure out whether they are maximums or minimums. Okay? So remember, if the double derivative is positive, it's a maximum. And if double derivative is negative, it is a minimum. Okay? So we just substitute in first of all, we need to work out the double derivative. So the derivative of our derivative is 6x plus 4. Substitute -2 in to get -8, so therefore it is negative. So at x equals -2, our turning point is a maximum. When we substitute in our second turning point, 2/3, we end up with 8, so this therefore is a maximum. And here we end up with our 2 turning points. So turning point 1, which is -2, 11, is a minimum, is a maximum, sorry. And turning point 2/3, 1.516, this is a minimum. So what we've done is we've used the same process that we learnt last term, but with a polynomial, not with a quadratic. The exact same process, instead of just finding when a straight line equals 0, you're having to use a quadratic formula because you have 2 possible outcomes. Okay, so that is the process. Find the derivative, make that equal 0. Substitute your x values back into the original formula, and then find out whether it is a maximum or a minimum. Pretty simple. Okay, so what I want you to do is find the turning points for this polynomial. So negative x cubed minus 6x squared plus 2x plus 6. Okay, so just follow these 3 steps and you'll be able to work out what the turning points are. So for the write that essay, I want you to write a first-person account of how you found the turning point for this polynomial. Just use one very short sentence. And once you've done that, just rewrite it so it is in third person. So you only need a couple of sentences each. I want you to practice writing in first and third person. So I want to identify the important information in this paragraph. This is a mathematical question. A whale watching tour boat has finished viewing a whale and is returning to shore, moving at 74 kilometers per hour. The whale coincidentally starts swimming away from the boat at the same time, moving in the exact opposite direction at a rate of 38 kilometers per hour. How long will it be before the whale and the boat are 4 kilometers apart? Okay, have a go at that. Okay, so there's 3 steps for finding the turning point of a polynomial. I want you to summarize those very briefly. Okay, I'll be on discussion board. Come and ask me any questions you might have.